Christian movies can be hit or miss, often letting their message overshadow the story. But Average Joe had me wondering, could this movie break the mold? Or does it bring something different to the table? Let's talk about it. Average Joe, the movie about how a 20-year Marine veteran, Joe Kennedy, became a football coach and took his battle for the right to pray all the way to the Supreme Court. It's a Christian story of grit, values, patience, and above all, the average man. It stars Eric Close as Joe Kennedy and Amy Acker as Denise Kennedy, his wife. But there's more to this story than just a courtroom victory. You won't want to miss what makes Average Joe stand out from other Christian movies this year. Here are 4 ways it does this. First, the movie is based on a true story. Joe Kennedy was a high school football coach who began kneeling at the 50-yard line to pray after every game. When the school district objected and tried to stop him, he refused, so they fired him. Kennedy thought they were violating his First Amendment right to free speech, so he took the district to court. Over time, the case, which was known as Kennedy versus Bremerton, eventually made it to the Supreme Court, where on June 27, 2022, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of Kennedy. But here's the thing. This movie isn't actually about the court case itself. It's about something much more relatable. And that brings me to number 2. The movie is not actually about Kennedy versus Bremerton. It's about how Joe Kennedy was just an average person who had the determination to take the case all the way to the highest court. The movie does a really good job of portraying Joe as just an average person. He had a rough upbringing. He had real-world problems. Professionally, he didn't do a lot after the Marines. He was hesitant to accept the coaching job. He didn't know the Bible very well. And he even wasn't a lifelong prayer warrior, just an everyday man who believed God had asked him to pray after each game. And that sense of conviction is what drove him to keep going, even when the stakes were high. So what makes Joe Kennedy's story so powerful? It's not just a prayer. It's his everyday struggles that will resonate with anyone who has faced adversity. The movie did a really good job of bringing the story to the average Christian. 3. Joe faced some serious challenges throughout his life. The movie portrays his hardships as what shaped him into the person willing to take a stand. These struggles weren't just added for drama. They were part of his real story. It was one of those situations that this character could only be written if it was a true story, because it would be difficult to believe if it were not. He came from an abusive household and bounced around between different families in his youth. He didn't marry the woman he loved until after both he and his wife had failed marriages. His wife didn't want to support him near the last stretch. All of these were true events. This journey that he had to go through was what prepared him to take that fight all the way to Washington, D.C. But here's the kicker. What Joe went through wasn't just about a court case. It was about finding purpose in even the toughest of circumstances. 4. This was one of the best Christian movies of the year. There have been several Christian movies this year, but there have only been a few standouts. The Forge, a Kendrick Brothers movie about the importance of taking young men and teaching them how to become strong men with Christian values and principles. Escape from Germany, written and directed by T.C. Christensen about getting LDS missionaries out of Nazi Germany before World War II breaks out. And 3, Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot, which follows a real-life inspired story of a community in Possum Trot, Texas, that adopted troubled children from all over Texas. Average Joe, a story about how an average Christian man who had to endure pretty severe hardships was able to successfully challenge attacks on his freedom of speech, fits nicely with these stories, each giving their own unique Christian experience. But what sets Average Joe apart from the other Christian films? Let's take a closer look at why this movie just might be one of the year's best. Average Joe is about the everyday Christian. While The Forge focuses on raising future leaders and Escape from Germany shows courage in extreme circumstances, what makes Average Joe so powerful is it doesn't rely on grand gestures or epic battles. It resonates because it shows that even the most average of us can make a huge impact. And that's a message worth celebrating in any year of cinema. So what do you think? Have you seen Average Joe, or are you planning to? Where does it rank for you among this year's movies? Drop a comment below, and I'll see you next time.